My wife served me divorce papers at my own retirement party while my kids cheered, "Finally, freedom." I calmly signed those documents and whispered to her, "You have no idea what you just did." I'm Beckham Hartwell, and for 38 years I've kept Denver's lights on. Tonight my family celebrated destroying me. What they didn't know was that I'd been preparing for this moment for years, and now the real show was about to begin. If you're watching this, please let me know in the comments where you're from, because tonight you're going to learn what happens when quiet people decide they've had enough. 38 years ago, I made two decisions that would save my life. The first happened in 1905, when I was 22, and just started working at Rocky Mountain Utilities in Denver. I was the new guy, fresh out of training, scared, but determined. My first day climbing those 40-foot power poles, I knew I'd found my calling. The work was dangerous, demanding, but honest. I was good at it, and I was proud of it. That same week I met her. Piper Morrison walked into Murphy's Tavern on Colfax like she owned the place. Blonde, beautiful, and way out of my league. She worked downtown in marketing, wore expensive suits, and had big dreams about conquering the corporate world. "You're the new lineman," she said, sliding onto the bar stool next to mine. "I'm Piper." I was smitten from day one. Here was this ambitious, intelligent woman who somehow saw something in a blue-collar guy like me. We talked for hours that first night. She told me about her plans to revolutionize Denver's advertising scene. I told her about keeping the lights on for the city. We dated for 3 years, best 3 years of my young life. Piper pushed me to be better, introduced me to her world of art galleries and fancy restaurants. I worked overtime to afford the lifestyle she was used to, but I didn't mind. Making her happy made me happy. She had expensive tastes, though. Designer clothes, weekend trips to Aspen dinners at places where the appetizers cost more than my lunch budget for a week. But love makes you do crazy things, and I was crazy about her. In December 1988, I proposed. Right there in Murphy's Tavern, same spot where we met. I'd saved for months for that ring. "Yes," she said, tears in her eyes. "Of course, yes." But then came the hard part. "There's one thing," I said, my heart pounding. "I want us to sign a prenuptial agreement." Piper actually laughed. "A prenup? Beckham, what assets? You're an electrician. What are you protecting, your tool belt and work boots?" Her words stung, but I held firm. "It's not about what I have now. It's about protecting what we might build together. Keeping things clean and fair." She rolled her eyes. "Honey, you're being paranoid. But if it makes you feel better, fine. I'll sign your little paper." 2 weeks before our wedding, we sat in a lawyer's office. The prenup was simple. What's mine stays mine, what's yours stays yours. Separate property remains separate. Piper barely glanced at it. "This is silly," she said, signing with a flourish. "We're going to be together forever anyway." Our wedding was perfect. Small ceremony, family and friends, nothing too fancy, but full of love. Piper looked stunning in her dress, and when she promised to love me for richer or poorer, I believed every word. Standing at that altar, watching my beautiful wife smile at me, I felt like the luckiest man alive. We had our whole future ahead of us. I was going to work hard, provide for our family, maybe buy a little house with a white picket fence. The prenup felt like nothing more than paperwork, a formality that would never matter. After all, we were in love. We were going to grow old together. What could possibly go wrong? I thought that prenup was just a precaution, something we'd laugh about in our golden years. I had no idea it would save my life 35 years later. 2 years after our wedding, Rylan arrived. March 1990. Holding my newborn son, seeing Piper exhausted but glowing, I knew everything had changed. I wasn't just working for a paycheck anymore. I was building a future for my family. The overtime started immediately. Weekends, holidays, emergency calls, I took them all. While other dads watched TV, I was out in storms keeping Denver's power running. Every extra hour meant more money for our growing family. "You work too much," Piper would say, but she never complained about the steady paychecks. Reese joined us in 1993. 2 perfect kids, a nice house in Lakewood, and a job that provided everything we needed. Those early years were golden. Coming home dirty and tired to 2 kids yelling, "Daddy's home!" Best feeling in the world. I taught Rylan baseball, showed him how tools worked. Reese was my shadow, always asking questions. "Why do you climb so high, Daddy?" "Somebody has to keep the lights on for everyone," I'd tell her. I was proud of my work. When people asked what I did, I'd say electrical lineman with confidence. The kids thought it was cool that Dad climbed tall poles and worked with electricity. But things started changing. By 2000, Rylan was 10 and noticing differences. His friends' fathers wore suits, carried briefcases, worked in clean offices. They drove nice cars and never came home with dirt under their fingernails. "Dad, why don't you work in an office like Tommy's dad?" he asked. "Because somebody has to do the real work," I said. He nodded, but I could see him thinking. Piper started changing how she introduced me. Instead of electrical lineman, it became, "He works for the city." Vague, safe, like my actual job was embarrassing. The kids picked up on it. When friends came over, they'd make sure I'd already showered and changed out of my work uniform. Can't have their classmates see Dad in utility clothes. "Can you park in the garage today?" 12-year-old Reese asked before a sleepover. Sarah's mom might drop her off early. It stung, but I told myself they were just kids. By 2003, the pattern was clear. At school events, Piper steered conversations away from careers. The kids' friends had fathers who were doctors, lawyers, business owners. I was just the guy who fixed power lines. "What does your dad do?" I heard a kid ask 13-year-old Rylan. "He's in utilities," Rylan mumbled. "Not electrical lineman or keeps the city running. Just utilities." Like I pushed papers in some basement office. That night, lying in bed, the truth hit me hard. My family was ashamed of me. Not ashamed of who I was, but ashamed of what I did for a living. The work that paid for their comfortable life, their nice clothes, their college funds, that work wasn't good enough for them anymore. The overtime hours that bought Ryland's baseball equipment and Reese's dance lessons. The union benefits that covered their doctor visits. The steady paycheck that let Piper stay home when they were babies. None of that mattered. All they saw was a blue-collar dad who embarrassed them in front of their white-collar friends. I'd spent 13 years working my ass off to provide for this family, and they saw me as their biggest disappointment. That year I realized I needed to do something they'd never expect. That sleepless night in 2003 changed everything. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Piper's steady breathing, thinking about Ryland's embarrassed mumble. "He's in utilities." 40 years old, and my own family saw me as a disappointment. I'd spent 15 years providing everything they needed, and somehow I'd become the guy they didn't want their friends to know about. Something had to change. The next Saturday, while Piper took the kids shopping, I drove to the Denver Public Library. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just answers. In the business section, I found a book that caught my attention. Real Estate Investing for Beginners. I spent the entire afternoon reading. Rental properties, cash flow appreciation, tax benefits. It was like discovering a whole new language. The book talked about regular people building wealth through real estate, creating passive income that could eventually replace their day jobs. Regular people, like electricians. Over the next few weeks, I devoured every real estate book I could find. I learned about market analysis, property management, financing strategies. The more I read, the more excited I became. This wasn't some get-rich-quick scheme. This was a real business that rewarded hard work and smart decisions. But I needed to do this right. I made an appointment with a lawyer downtown, a guy named who specialized in small business formation. His office was everything mine wasn't. Mahogany desk, law books, certificates on the wall. The kind of place that would impress Piper. "I want to start a real estate investment business," I told him. "But I need it completely separate from my personal finances." Harold nodded. "You want an LLC, limited liability company. Protects your personal assets, provides tax advantages, keeps business separate from family finances." Exactly. 2 weeks later, Hartwell Property LLC was official. I had business cards printed, opened a separate bank account, set up a P.O. box for business mail. To my family, nothing had changed. I was still just Beckham the electrician. But legally I was now Beckham the business owner. Finding the right property took months. I drove through neighborhoods on weekends, studying for sale signs, learning to spot potential. Piper thought I was working overtime or hanging out with the guys from work. In spring 2005, I found it. A duplex in Lakewood, 15 minutes from our house. The place was a mess. Peeling paint, broken windows, overgrown yard. The seller was desperate, asking $85,000 for a property that would be worth $120,000 fixed up. I offered $75,000 cash. Well, cash plus a loan from the business account I'd been funding with my overtime pay. The seller accepted immediately. The next 6 months were brutal. Every weekend, every evening after work, I was at that duplex. Painting, replacing fixtures, fixing plumbing, landscaping the yard. My hands were already rough from electrical work, but now they were permanently stained with paint and caulk. "You're working too much again," Piper would say when I came home exhausted. "Just trying to get ahead," I'd reply, not exactly a lie. By October 2005, the duplex was beautiful. Fresh paint, new appliances, decent neighborhood. I listed it for rent at $1.200 per month and had 3 applications within a week. The first tenant was a young nurse named Maria Santos. Single mom, stable job, excellent references. When she handed me that first month's rent, a check made out to Hartwell Property LLC for exactly $1.200, I felt something I'd never experienced before. Financial freedom. Not just a paycheck that disappeared into bills and groceries, but money that came in whether I climbed a pole that day or not. Money that was mine earned through my own business decisions, my own hard work. That $1,200 check changed everything, but I kept it completely secret. Those first 2 years with the duplex taught me everything about the real estate business. 2005 to 2007 was my education period. Maria Santos was the perfect first tenant. Paid on time, took care of the property. But I knew I couldn't count on luck every time. I learned tenant screening, credit checks, employment verification, property maintenance. The duplex needed constant attention. Leaky faucets, broken appliances, weekend repairs. My electrical background helped. I could handle most fixes myself instead of hiring contractors. "Where are you going now?" Piper would ask Saturday mornings. "Work project," I'd say, not technically a lie. The kids barely noticed. Rylan was 15, busy with girls and video games. Reese was 12, focused on friends and school. As long as money kept coming for their activities, they didn't question my weekend disappearances. By 2007, I had the system down. The duplex generated $1,200 monthly like clockwork. After expenses, I cleared about $400 profit. Not life-changing money, but proof the concept worked. Then 2008 happened. The financial crisis hit Denver hard. Foreclosure signs everywhere. Families losing homes they couldn't afford. Real estate values plummeted. The news was full of housing market collapse stories. But I saw opportunity. Banks were desperate. Hundreds of foreclosed properties sitting empty, costing money monthly. Houses that sold for $150,000 2 years earlier were now available for $90,000 or less. I started driving neighborhoods Sunday afternoons, hunting bank-owned properties. Piper thought I was just clearing my head after long work weeks. The first foreclosure was a ranch in Thornton. 3 bedrooms, decent neighborhood. Bank wanted $95,000 for a house that would rent for $1,400 monthly. I offered $85,000 cash. They accepted in 48 hours. The place needed work. Carpet paint fixtures. I spent every spare moment that fall renovating. When Piper complained about my long hours, I blamed utility company storm repairs. By Christmas 2008, my second rental property was generating income. The pattern continued through 2009. Westminster foreclosure for 78 Donatos, Arvada townhouse for $92,000. Each needed work, each became a weekend project, each started producing monthly cash flow. My family had no idea what I was building. They saw me leaving early, coming home tired and dirty, assuming I was just working harder at my regular job. Extra money in our account. They figured it was overtime pay. The irony was perfect. While embarrassed by my blue-collar work, that same work ethic was making me wealthy. Skills from maintaining power lines, electrical work, problem-solving, working with my hands, translated perfectly to property renovation. By end of 2009, I owned 4 rental properties, generating $4,800 monthly gross income. After expenses, I cleared about $2,800 monthly in passive income. That was more than half my Rocky Mountain Utilities salary, and I was just getting started. The best part. Completely invisible to my family. They still saw me as just an electrician, still introduced me vaguely at social events, still treated my work like something embarrassing. While our neighbors lost their homes, I was quietly building an empire. By 2010, the disrespect in my household had become so routine, it felt like a second atmosphere, even as my business was becoming unstoppable. My kids were teenagers, and everything about me embarrassed them while I was quietly building an empire brick by brick. In 2010, I bought property, number 5, a Lakewood foreclosure, for $89,000. In 2011 came a Westminster duplex for $95,000. In 2012, a Thornton rental. By 2015, I owned 8 properties producing $15,000 a month, but my family saw none of it. "What does your dad do?" became Ryland's dreaded question. I watched him stumble at a basketball game when a teammate's surgeon father made small talk. "He's in utilities," he muttered. Government stuff, as if I pushed papers instead of helping keep Denver's power grid stable through blizzards. Reese was worse. At 17, she'd mastered avoiding anything about our family. I once heard her tell friends, "He's between things right now," even though I'd worked the same job 25 years. Meanwhile, the kids enthusiastically shared stories about their friends, wealthy fathers, cardiologists, lawyers, tech founders, never once mentioning that their father owned 8 rental properties worth over $1 million. Piper perfected her own vague dismissiveness at neighborhood gatherings. "Oh, Beckham keeps busy with work, utilities department." Then she'd immediately change the subject. The money requests grew bigger. Rylan needed $3,000 for college applications. "I know you probably don't have this kind of money," he said, and I wrote the check instantly. Reese needed $12,000 for a senior year car. I paid cash. College tuition, spring break trips, designer clothes. The latest iPhones, they treated our bank account like their personal ATM. And I was just the man who somehow kept it filled. The lowest point came at Reese's graduation party. She gushed over her friend's real estate developer father and his investment portfolio, marveling at how profitable real estate could be, while I stood a few feet away, the owner of more properties than the man she admired. She had no idea. None of them did. By 2015, it was clear I was good enough to pay for their lifestyle, but never good enough to acknowledge. They took my money, but never wondered where it came from. From 2015 to 2021, my life split in two. The best years for business, the worst for family. My real estate empire hit its peak. Properties 9 through 12 came steadily, an Aurora triplex, 2 Wheat Ridge homes, an Inglewood apartment building. By 2021, I owned 12 properties, generating $22,000 monthly clearing, $18,000 after expenses. My portfolio hit $3.2 million. I was a multimillionaire. At home, I was treated like hired help. Rylan, now in medical school, demanded money like he was placing an order. "Dad, I need $5,000 for equipment. Dad, I need $8,000 for a conference." Never a question, never gratitude. Reese was the same. MBA programs, networking trips, business wardrobes. She said all her classmates' parents funded these things. Somehow the daughter of a utilities worker fit right in. Piper began changing in 2018. Expensive gym routines, hair appointments, constant girls' nights. "I deserve to feel good," she'd say while running up credit card bills. At home, she drifted away, scrolling her phone through dinners, while the kids talked about their impressive classmates. If I added anything, they'd smile politely and change the subject. "Dad, you wouldn't understand," Reese often said. Business school stuff apparently beyond the comprehension of the man running a multi-million-dollar portfolio. I became invisible in my own house. Piper left fix-it lists and errands. The kids sent demands, oil changes, dry cleaning, Wi-Fi issues. Always orders, never requests. I'd achieved the financial independence most people dream about, earning more passively each month than many make yearly. Yet in my own home, I lived like a servant. I was a millionaire treated like an ATM, unseen, unappreciated, and unacknowledged by the very people whose lives I had painstakingly built. The distance between us widened year after year, not because I changed, but because they never cared to look beyond the surface. They saw only what they wanted to see: a simple utilities worker, not the strategist who built their comfortable world. And eventually that blindness became unforgivable. 2022 was the year everything unraveled and everything fell into place. Piper's changes weren't subtle anymore. The woman who'd complained about her weight for 20 years suddenly became fitness-obsessed. New workout clothes, weekly protein, Shake's 3-hour gym sessions. "I'm finally taking care of myself," she'd say, admiring her reflection. "I feel like a new person." She looked like one too. Tighter clothes, expensive highlights, makeup for grocery runs. At 55, Piper was trying to look 35. The secretive behavior started small. Hidden text messages, backyard phone calls, and hushed tones. "Just work stuff," she'd explain. Piper hadn't worked in 15 years. Then came the credit card charges. The Capitol Grill, $127 for 2. She'd claimed dinner with her diabetic sister who hadn't eaten out in years. Elway's downtown, $89 for girls' lunch. These weren't neighborhood friend prices. Her gym membership upgrade caught my attention. Premium package with personal training, with someone named Atlas Kane. I started paying real attention. Piper left at 10 a.m., returned at 2 p.m. glowing with more than exercise endorphins. Immediate showers, humming unfamiliar songs. "How was your workout?" Great Atlas really pushed me today. He's amazing. Atlas. This Atlas that. She talked about him more than she'd talked about me in years. One Thursday I followed her. Instead of the gym, Piper drove to Cherry Creek's upscale district, Ocean Prime Restaurant. Through the window, I watched her kiss a man who wasn't her husband. Atlas Kane was everything I wasn't. 6'2", muscular, probably 20 years younger. Designer workout clothes, BMW in the parking lot. I sat in my truck watching my wife of 34 years laugh and flirt like a teenager. When he held her hand across the table, something died inside my chest. But I didn't confront them. I drove home and called a private investigator. The evidence came fast. Photos at restaurants, hotels her car at his apartment overnight. This had been going on for months. The emotional devastation was crushing. 34 years of marriage, 2 children, a lifetime of overtime to provide for this woman, and she was throwing it away for a gym trainer, making $30,000 a year. But I didn't fall apart. I got strategic. I called Sloan Winters, the lawyer who'd set up my LLC 20 years earlier. Her practice had grown. She now specialized in high-net-worth divorces. "Beckham, I'm sorry," she said after I explained, "but legally you're in excellent position." We met the next day. Sloan spread my paperwork across her conference table. 1988 prenup LLC documents, property deeds, business statements. "This is textbook asset protection," she said. "Your prenup is solid LLC structure bulletproof. You can prove every property was purchased with separate business funds. In Colorado, she has no claim. Spousal support, minimal. She's been out of workforce by choice, but she's healthy and capable. Court won't support her indefinitely." For the first time in decades, I held all the cards. "My advice," Sloan continued, "let her file first. Let her show her hand. Then we respond from strength. What if she discovers the properties? She won't. Your business records are separate, managed by the property company. Unless she hires a forensic accountant, which costs money she doesn't have, she'll only know about your salary and our joint accounts." The irony was perfect. Piper was planning to leave me for half of what she thought I had, not knowing I was worth over $3 million she couldn't touch. I had the evidence and the legal protection. Now I just needed the perfect moment. 3 months before my retirement, everything came together over a Tuesday night dinner. Nothing special about the evening. Piper's usual chicken casserole, Rylan, home from medical school, Reese over from her Lakewood apartment. Just the 4 of us around our kitchen table like thousands of times before. But the undercurrent had changed. Everyone knew something was coming. "Dad," Rylan said, cutting his chicken with surgical precision, "I need to talk about some expenses." Here we go. Medical school's getting expensive in the final year. I need $5,000 for clinical rotation equipment and board prep materials. Not, "Can you help?" Just a statement of need, like he was doing me a favor by asking. "5,000, I repeated. "I know it's a lot, but this is my future, my career." Reese jumped in. "Dad, I need $3,500 for business startup costs. Amazing opportunity to get in on a boutique fitness concept before it goes national." Both sat expectantly, like I should be grateful they'd considered me worthy of funding their dreams. $8,500 requested, like I was their personal ATM. "That's a lot of money," I said carefully. "Dad, you've always supported our education," Rylan said. "This is just an extension of that investment. Investment in them, using my money. We know you probably don't have it lying around," Reese added with fake sympathy. "But maybe you could get a loan, use the house equity." House equity. They wanted me to mortgage our home for their entitled demands. My phone rang. The caller ID showed a business number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. "Mr. Hartwell." "This is Jennifer. Great news about that contract renewal we discussed. The client wants to extend at the higher rate we quoted. Should I accept?" "An easy decision." "Yes, accept it. Send me the paperwork tomorrow." "Perfect. Also, we have 3 new inquiries for that other project. All look promising. Handle it however you think best. You know what to do." "Will do. And congratulations on your retirement next month. You've worked hard for this." I hung up to 3 pairs of curious eyes. "Dad," Rylan said slowly, "what was that about?" "Work stuff," I said, cutting my chicken. "What kind of work stuff?" Reese pressed. "You never get business calls at home." I shrugged. "Just some side consulting, nothing major." "Consulting?" Piper asked sharply. "Since when do you consult?" "Electrical work. Some guys need advice on projects. Pays a little extra." It wasn't exactly a lie, just creative interpretation. "That sounded like more than electrical advice," Rylan said suspiciously. You'd be surprised how complicated some installations can get. The conversation moved on, but I could see them glancing at me differently. For the first time in years, they were actually curious about something I was doing, but not curious enough to ask real questions. After the kids left, Piper started cleaning dishes aggressively. So she said, scrubbing unnecessarily hard, "I've been thinking about your retirement party." "What about it?" "It should be special. You've worked so hard. You deserve recognition." She was planning something. I heard it in her voice. "Denver Union Station Event Hall. We could invite everyone. Coworkers, neighbors, family. Make it a real celebration. Public venue, big crowd, perfect stage for whatever she planned." "That sounds expensive." "Don't worry about cost. This is important. You've earned this recognition." Recognition, right? She wanted to end our marriage in front of everyone who respected my 38 years of service. Make me look like the failure she'd always believed I was. She wanted a public stage for my humiliation. I'd give her one for her education. October 15th, 2023. Denver Union Station Event Hall was packed with 150 people who'd come to honor my 38 years of service. The venue was perfect. Historic, elegant, the kind of place that made people feel important. Co-workers from Rocky Mountain Utilities filled the front tables. Union representatives, neighbors, even a few of my tenants had shown up, though my family didn't know who they were. The speeches were everything you'd expect. My supervisor talked about my safety record. 38 years, 0 serious accidents. "Beckham Hartwell is the guy you want on your crew when the storm hits," he said. "Reliable as sunrise." People laughed, applauded, told stories about emergency calls we'd worked together. I felt appreciated, valued. For the first time in months, I remembered why I'd been proud of my work. Rylan and Reese stood near the back, checking their phones. Piper mingled with the crowd, playing the proud wife perfectly. She'd even made a photo slideshow of my career highlights. Then came the cake cutting, standard retirement party stuff. People making jokes about me having too much free time, asking what I planned to do with myself. That's when Piper stood up. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight," she began, her voice carrying across the room. "Beckham has worked so hard for so many years. He deserves to be celebrated." Applause, smiles, everyone thinking this was normal. But I also think this is the perfect time to make an important announcement about our future. The room went quiet. This wasn't on the program. Piper reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. "After 35 years of marriage, I think it's time for both Beckham and me to start new chapters in our lives." She handed me the envelope. "These are divorce papers. I filed them yesterday." The silence was deafening. 150 people watched me open that envelope and find legal documents requesting dissolution of our marriage. But here's what nobody expected. I smiled. "Thank you, Piper," I said calmly. "This is very thoughtful timing." Rylan stepped forward. "Dad, we support this decision. We think it's for the best." "Honestly?" Reese added with a laugh. "Finally freedom." "Finally," Rylan agreed. "This might be the best day ever." The crowd was stunned. My own children were celebrating their parents' divorce at my retirement party. I stood up, still holding those papers, and looked around the room at all these people who'd known our family for decades. "Since we're being honest in front of all these people," I said, "maybe I should be honest too." I pulled out my phone and answered the call that had just come in. "Mr. Hartwell." Jennifer's voice was loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Sorry to call during your party, but we just got an offer on property 12. The tenant wants to renew early at $2,400 monthly. That brings your total monthly income to $22,000. Should I accept?" I looked directly at Piper. "Accept it, Jennifer, and congratulations to me on a very successful retirement." The room erupted. People started talking all at once, trying to process what they'd just heard. "Property 12, my supervisor asked. "Beckham, what's she talking about?" "I own 12 rental properties," I said clearly. "Portfolio worth $3.2 million. Monthly passive income of $22,000. Piper's face went white. Rylan and Reese grabbed chairs for support. "But here's the best part." I continued signing the divorce papers with a flourish. "Every property is owned by Hartwell Property LLC, purchased with my separate business income. And thanks to the prenup Piper signed in 1988, she gets exactly what she's entitled to. Half of our house equity and half of our savings account." I handed the signed papers back to her. "That's about $24,000 total. Atlas Kane is going to love that." The mention of Atlas sent another wave of gasps through the crowd. I watched him slip out the back door, abandoning Piper faster than a sinking ship. 38 years of providing for people who were ashamed of my work. I said to the crowd, "Tonight, you all learned what I really built while they were embarrassed by who I was." The party ended quietly after that. People filtered out, some stopping to congratulate me, others just shaking their heads in amazement. 6 months later, the lessons had been learned. The divorce finalized in December. Piper received $24,300 total, house equity and savings. She moved to a one-bedroom apartment working retail for $12 hourly. Atlas Kane ended their relationship 2 weeks after the revelations. Dating a broke divorcee wasn't appealing anymore. Social consequences were brutal. Our neighborhood finally understood. She'd left a multimillionaire for a broke trainer. Her book club excluded her. Her sister stopped calling. The narrative about her unambitious husband crumbled. My children faced reality. Rylan couldn't afford medical school's final year, $60,000. His loans covered only partial costs. He called after Christmas. "Dad, I'm 30,000 short. I'll have to take leave." "That's unfortunate. I know we messed up, but this is my future. What do you want from me?" "To earn back your respect and your help." For the first time in years, he talked to me like a person worth respecting. Reese's business loan was rejected. Her fitness dream died. She moved back with Piper, both folding clothes at Target for minimum wage. But something changed. Stripped of entitlement, both kids started understanding. Rylan got a Home Depot job. 40 hours, $15 hourly. "Dad, my supervisor treats me better than I ever treated you." People respect honest work. Reese taught fitness classes. "I like earning money myself. Feels different than asking." 3 months ago, Rylan started electrician classes. "I want to learn a real trade, like you." Today he works for Rocky Mountain Utilities. Same company I retired from. He's proud of his starting salary. Reese opened her fitness studio last month with a business loan she qualified for through her own earnings. She's successful because she earned it. I've never been happier. My property company handles operations. I travel occasionally consult for retirees, learning real estate investing. The respect I'd craved finally came, not from family begging for money, but watching my children learn to value honest work, building something with their own effort. Piper still works retail in that small apartment. Atlas moved on. She learned that leaving a provider for a pretty face has consequences. Sometimes people need to lose everything to appreciate what they had. I taught them that lesson. Looking back at my true story, I realize I made a crucial mistake for 35 years. Don't be like me. Don't wait until your retirement party to stand up for yourself. Here's what I learned. Respect isn't inherited through blood or marriage. It's earned through actions and maintained through boundaries. I spent decades being the provider while accepting disrespect, thinking love meant tolerating everything. That was wrong. My advice: set boundaries early. When people take your generosity for granted, stop giving. When they're ashamed of your honest work, let them fund their lifestyle. Don't wait until 60 to discover your worth. Grandpa stories like mine teach us that quiet people aren't weak. We're choosing our battles. But staying quiet too long enables wrong behavior. This true story shows what happens when respect is demanded instead of earned. God gives us strength to provide for families, but He also expects us to stand up for ourselves with dignity. I should have acted sooner with love but firmness. Grandpa stories often end with wisdom learned too late. Mine ended with justice served but cost decades of pain. Grandpa stories remind us, don't repeat my mistakes. Demand respect from day one, set financial boundaries, and remember that being a good provider doesn't mean being a doormat. The real lesson: sometimes people who love your money don't love you. Learn the difference before it's too late. If this true story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more life lessons and tell us in the comments. Have you ever had to teach someone to respect you? Your story might help others find their strength.